Last time on What If Toribot joined the Z Fighters, we covered a whole boatload of training information. Essentially, everyone has stayed on government grounds for the past 5 years training. Chi-Chi joined them, became a fighter, married Goku, had Gohan, and now the two of them split their time with him. Kami was also there for a year to train everybody and was forced to get stronger to keep up. I already covered power levels at the time, so I'll just flash the graphic on screen right now. Back in the story, we're now at the point where Raditz should be arriving. But from the Dragon Team's perspective, since the Pilaf gang is in the world government, any possible alerts about an alien invasion would be directly sent to them. As a result, everyone stands by to face the threat. They can also sense Raditz's power, and it's pretty strong. They can definitely beat him, of course. Goku could probably do it single-handedly, but still. Raditz first encounters Piccolo and Piano. Piccolo is in the middle of training, but Piano comes in and interrupts him, telling him that there's a big unfamiliar power coming their way. Almost as if on cue, Raditz arrives. He's about to start waxing lyrical about how he's so glad to see his baby brother again, except these two are clearly not his brother. They're green, and one of them looks like a pterodactyl too. Piccolo points out that it's really mean and kind of bigoted to judge someone for being a green pterodactyl. Piccolo asks him what he's doing here, and Raditz explains he's looking for his brother Kakarot. He should have a tail, just like him. Piccolo doesn't know anyone by that name, but he does know another person with a tail. Then Piccolo asks why he needs him. Well, basically, Raditz wants to kidnap him. Ah, okay. Well, Piccolo isn't exactly fond of Goku, so he will help Raditz out. But they'll need to isolate Goku or Kakarot or whatever, since all his friends combined could body the two of them. And that could take some time, so they'll have to wait. Raditz realizes anyway, he didn't even bring a second ship with him in the first place. He flies off, gets his attack pod, and flies back. Piccolo also regales him on the existence of Gohan, though, which is interesting to Raditz. If Saiyans can breed with other species, then maybe that's how they'll repopulate the race. Well, at least keep it alive longer. So not only does Raditz call for one empty ship, he calls for 2. That should take about a week, so in the meantime Raditz is going to be bunking with Piccolo and Piano. When nothing comes of Raditz's arrival, it's confusing to the Dragon Team. Maybe he got kidnapped like Blue, Tao, Upa, and Roshi? But they can still sense his power, though, so that rules out the possibility. They also don't sense Piccolo or Piano, since the two of them could suppress their power, unlike Raditz. Actually, come to think of it, none of them even know Piano was still alive in the first place, since nobody met him in this timeline other than the Pilaf gang, who have no idea what happened to him. As previously stated, it takes 1 week for the second and third ships to arrive. On that day, the ships are still detected coming into orbit, but they can't track any kind of power signature from them. Obviously, because they're empty. Piano plots on behalf of Piccolo and Raditz. They should leave the house, go out in the middle of the night, and kidnap Goku and Gohan, simple as. 10 or so hours pass. At this point, it's 2 a.m., nobody's awake, and they're off to the races. Raditz and Piccolo massively suppress their power. This is something Piccolo taught Raditz during the time they spent together. They arrive at the king's castle successfully. Once they're there, Raditz looks up at the moon. His power immediately jumps up to 100 as he transforms, and once the transformation is complete, he slowly but surely raises his power even more. He has to be very careful in this endeavor, because if he were to power up too swiftly, he could potentially be alerting everyone else. Now, Raditz wouldn't know which house is which, but Piccolo, due to his stalking of Goku, can quite easily point it out to him. Piccolo climbs onto the dome of Goku's house, putting both hands on the roof. He puts forth some notable concentration and restraint, quietly cutting through the ceiling with his ki. As soon as he's done, he levitates down to avoid making any further noise from landing. Piccolo floats down as stealthily as possible and begins increasing his power bit by bit over the next few minutes. Once he's reached his full power, he starts to sneak around the house. Pretty quickly, Piccolo finds Goku's room. He opens the door as quietly as possible, but unfortunately the hinges had not been oiled. Piccolo curses himself in his head as Goku and Chi-Chi stir in bed. Goku's nose starts to perk up, like he's smelling something familiar. If you remember Goku's incredible smelling ability from Dragon Ball, that's what he's doing right now. Yeah, he smelled that scent 5 years ago. Goku awakens with a sudden jolt, locking widened eyes with Piccolo. Piccolo stretches his arm out, covering Goku's mouth with his hand. Goku starts to make muffled screams, awakening Chi-Chi. Piccolo stretches his other arm out, taking Chi-Chi by the neck and lifting her up. He stretches it further out, pinning her against the wall by the neck. She raises her hand, firing a Dodon Paw at Piccolo, which forces him to let go of them to avoid it. He disappears in an afterimage, but reappears right beside her. Goku hops over the bed, lunging at Piccolo. Piccolo is able to get his hands on Goku's body, and instead of being hit by Goku's attack, reverses it and tosses him into the wall. He keeps Goku down with one outstretched arm, and pushes Chi-Chi to the other wall with the other. Piccolo keeps his hand on their throats for a full minute, at which point the couple are both rendered unconscious. Piccolo feels almost tempted to keep going and kill Goku just as revenge for Laylee's sake, but at the same time, Raditz is stronger than him right now, and he wants Goku alive. So when they're out cold, he drags their unconscious bodies through the house with him. He first lifts Goku up through the hole, and then Chi-Chi. Oozaru Raditz cocks his head at Piccolo, confused. Piccolo psychically contacts him, telling him that Chi-Chi woke up too, and if they left her there, she'd undoubtedly tell everyone else what was going on. Raditz nods in silence. Piccolo goes back into the house, finding the sleeping Gohan in his room. He grabs him by the back of his clothes, which wakes him up, but Piccolo knocks him out just as quickly. Gohan is then also given to Raditz. Having the Sun family successfully kidnapped, Piccolo and Raditz go off on their way. They don't want to stick around any longer because if they do, they could get seriously hurt. Piccolo could die, and Raditz could get his tail cut off and then get killed after that. So leaving is honestly their best bet. Meanwhile, inside one of the houses, someone's still up at this hour. It's Toribot. He mostly uses his nights to work on his manga, and apparently he's just gotten to the part where the main characters are about to fight some alien invaders or something. He isn't exactly sure where that storyline's gonna go. First they have to get through some plants, though. And he's been drawing for a really long time, so he figures he's about ready for a break. It would be nice to go on a little jog while the moon is out, right? Then, while he gets up, he witnesses Oozaru Raditz tiptoeing away with Piccolo on his shoulders. Well, Kami did tell him about this one time Goku turned into a giant monkey, but that's clearly not Goku because he has that weird armor on, and especially if it was Goku, why would he be hanging out with Piccolo? Yeah, something's not right. Once Raditz and Piccolo have left, Toribot rushes out of his house. He goes up to the castle, taking out his key and barging inside. At that point, as he goes up through the second floor, he encounters Mai, still awake, reading on a couch. Toribot quickly regales her on what he saw. Piccolo was here with a giant monkey. Unfortunately, neither of them can detect ki, but they can follow Raditz's footprints. Toribot also doesn't think it would be nice to wake up Pilaf or Shu, nor do they have an incredible amount of time, so he and Mai decide to go off on their own to confront them. They theoretically should be strong enough to beat Piccolo together. Except, again, they can't sense ki, so they don't know how untrue that is. Especially with Oozaru Raditz thrown in there. Either way, Mai gets into her mech, and they head off. They make a long dozen or so mile trip. They get to Piccolo's base and hide in some bushes, watching as Piccolo opens one of the space pods for Raditz. He carefully puts Gohan inside and closes the pod. Toribot looks back at Mai, with no change in facial expression, because he kinda can't, but Piccolo clearly just put Gohan in there. Mai acknowledges that, but what does Toribot want to do? Well, Toribot calls forth a remote from his pocket. Up in space, several satellites start coming together. They start linking with each other, merging into one massive cannon. Toribot uses the joystick on the remote to aim it downward, and then, if he has his calculations right, a rod drops from out of the cannon. But from so high up, as it drops down into Earth, it continues to gain momentum, pulled in by the atmosphere. The attack gets more and more powerful the longer it goes on and the closer it gets. Within 10 more seconds, the rod lights on fire. With that, it starts going even further. Using all the kinetic energy of the drop, it hits Raditz right on the head, hurting him significantly. He puts his hand on the back of his head, with Piccolo turning to look up at him. Something's clearly wrong. He just got hit on the back of the head, and it seemed like it was by an orbital strike or something. But who could have done it? That's when Piccolo realizes. The only person who would be up at this hour, and the only person who doesn't need any sleep, is the only possible culprit. He was too busy trying to stuff Gohan into the pod to pay attention before, but his ears perk up. He can't hear any noise coming from Toribot, but he can hear the faint whirring of Mai's mech's internal fans. He whips around, firing a quick blast out of the bushes. Toribot rushes forward with his pencil, smacking the attack away. Mai peeks out from behind a rock, shooting her rainbow laser towards Piccolo. He braces for impact as the attack hits. Meanwhile, Raditz is taken aback. Toribot knows that this is his shot. He bolts towards the pod, lifting it above his head and running back. Mai hops out from behind the rock to further engage Piccolo, while Toribot gets chased down by Raditz. But with the way the whole field is shaking now, and with them having already been out for a little while, Goku and Chi-Chi begin waking back up. And unfortunately, Goku is laid directly on his back. He begins transforming into an Ozaru. Raditz stops chasing Toribot. Despite Goku having trained his tail and further tapping into the Ozaru power within him, he's still like a wild gorilla right now. Raditz starts trying to talk to Goku and tell him about why he's here, but Goku is incredibly alarmed. He punches Raditz right across the face, and with him being stronger in his base, this manages to hurt him. Raditz holds his hand over his cheek, looking at Goku offended. Had his little lower-class brother really just hit him like that? Raditz figures that whatever is into Kakarot needs to be beaten out of him, and so that is what he is determined to do. Because Raditz is distracted by the giant Goku, Toribot is able to focus his efforts on Mai's battle with Piccolo. He beckons Chi-Chi to come along with him, but she doesn't want to. Goku's just turned into a monkey, and they're more worried about fighting Piccolo? Well, at the same time, Raditz and Goku are too powerful to fight right now, and Mai is getting absolutely destroyed. Without Toribot and Chi-Chi's help, she may even end up being killed. Chi-Chi considers it for a moment, and in her heart she knows it to be true. They'll have to hold off on tending to Goku right now for the sake of their friend. Chi-Chi comes in and joins Toribot in assisting Mai. Piccolo stands above her fallen mech, with a big ball of ki charging in one of his hands. He's prepared to use his Mako-sen on Mai, however, a plume of smoke appears around them. A smoke grenade had been tossed right behind him. Piccolo turns, holding his ki ball out to try and light through the smoke, but he gets hit with a knee to the stomach for his troubles. His assailant was Chi-Chi, and while Piccolo tries to hit her with his Mako-sen, she disappears in an afterimage. Piccolo gets tackled from behind, not by Chi-Chi, but by Toribot. With the two of them about to team up on him, Piccolo knows he has no choice other than to remove his weights. Chi-Chi knows Piccolo is stronger than both of them individually, but combined, even without his weights, if they try hard enough, they can win the battle. I'm going to leave this part off for now because I know if I make it long, I'll end up being late with it. Sorry. The next entry in the series should be out soon. Thank you for watching the video, take care of yourselves, don't turn into giant monkeys, goodbye.